Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Craig, and this is your first episode of Blurred Up. Today, we're going to talk about Marvel's Spider-Man, the PS4 exclusive brand new game, and it's the best Spider-Man game of all time. Video done. What else you need? Wait, I actually need this shit. All right. Anyway, seriously, it is really everything you want out of a Spider-Man game. They got the humor right, they got the tone right, they got the combat, they got the web slinging, and it's deep, bro. They got a ton of suits. They got 28 suits with different mods, different powers, and then the story just really hits home. I mean, we've had situations where we've had all those different factors before, but to all come together in such a polished package with a great budget behind it, with a great developer behind it, this game's a hit, man, and I think you'll definitely enjoy it. Today we're going to talk about it, and we're going to get into some of the impressions on the game, some of the parts I really liked about it, and then we're going to talk about the end credit stuff at the end of the video, and what's potentially setting up for the DLC and the sequels. So let's get started. This video game feels like a perfect marriage between the MCU, the comics, and in the animated TV shows. It takes elements from each one and ideas from each one and kind of melds them together. But it's such a great package. I mean, it's not the first time that we've had Spider-Man doing stealth sections, or the first time that we've had 20 plus suits, or great combat, or even a good story. But this is the first time that everything was just polished so well together, and then really had like some AAA presentation behind it. Like you're watching the game like you're watching one of the best MCU movies you've ever seen. Like just some of the set pieces and some of the boss fights. Like you're playing it like, what the fuck, bro? Like it's some of the most amazing shit, and I really enjoyed it. Now some of the boss fights kind of got a little repetitive, and some of the pattern recognition, kind of old school stuff, like hey, web them up, tap these buttons to take them out and everything like that. But I still appreciated it because a lot of the situations they put you in were unique. Having different bosses coming at you, sometimes two at a time, the different locations that you're at. They try to find a way to make each boss fight feel unique, but true to the story. They also do a really good job of crafting Peter out and really crafting out his supporting cast. One great way that they have one event permeate throughout the world and trying to affect multiple characters is the creation of Devil's Breath. We know that Otto and Norman Osborn, were college roommates, and they kind of grew up together and kind of use science to change the world. But Norman was more so worried about the financial aspect of that, trying to make big money, and Otto was really more so trying to change the world for the betterment of it. And that's kind of where they always kind of butted heads on things. And then so when Devil's Breath came around, which was supposed to be the the GOAT of medical shots, supposed to be able to heal cancer, supposed to be able to heal AIDS, any disease that you have is supposed to be able to heal it. But for whatever reason, they could never get it to work correctly, and it would in turn end up being a poison or a detriment to somebody, killing people, breaking down the cells that they were supposed to be repairing. Martin Lee, as a kid, he had a terminal disease that his parents were looking for any option to really help him out with. They came to Norman, and Norman was ready to go with the human trials, ready to get it out to the field so he can make money and kind of get the ball rolling. And Otto was still kind of, reserved about it, and still thinking that, hey, bro, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe we need to do some more testing. But at the end of the day, Norman got his way. We see Martin Lee in the chair, he gets the shot, and it takes this, it somehow has a negative reaction, and no pun intended, like it has a negative reaction, and all this negative energy bursts out of him. Explodes, kills his parents, and that automatically gives him his motivation to want to take down Norman. Martin's immediately orphaned as a kid, so, he kind of makes his way through the city, the Martin Lee side of him, find a way to propel himself positively. He's working through community service with Feast. He's trying to get back to the city. He's winning a ton of awards. He's just like this great guy, great entrepreneur and everything like that. But on the other side, the Mr. Negative side, he's in the crime underworlds. He's building up the demons. He's, making all these shitty moves in the background and everything like that to eventually overthrow Norman and overthrow New York. And we see that as the story goes on. Then we see how that same situation affects Norman and Otto's relationship, because they eventually split and they continue their dreams, but they go in drastically different paths. Norman, he's always worried about, you know, the dollar sign at the end of the day. He doesn't care about who he steps over, who he goes through, or who he, you know, fucks over to really get to that point. And he succeeds. He becomes the CEO of Oscorp. He becomes the mayor of New York. You know, and Otto's over here struggling. He's out here, you know, eating ramen noodles and, you know, getting the 4 for 4 from Wendy's, you know, trying to out here make it, but still trying to do the right thing, try to be, you know, have good morals and everything like that, but it's not paying the bills. You know, he gets Peter as his apprentice in college. Peter grew up idolizing Otto. You know, he was his mentor and, you know, his idol, the guy he looked up to and always wanted to be like. And so it's another dynamic because, you know, him and Harry are obviously friends, so he's known Norman almost his whole life. Norman's been trying to steal him away from Otto, but Peter doesn't believe in Norman. He knows Norman is shady, and he believes in Otto and everything that Otto's doing. So even though it's not making any money, even though their company's struggling, Peter still stays loyal.
This isn't about safety infractions, is it?
I'm trying to help you, Otto. You're free to continue your work in a secure environment.
At Oscorp.
You always were the smartest guy in the room.
You haven't changed a bit.
Neither of you. Hey, Peter. Harry will be coming back from Europe early next year. Maybe the two of you can start that business you always talked about. This is opportunity knocking.
Easy. They didn't take everything. Maybe we could start over.
Peter, there's no we. Without the grant from the city, I can no longer pay you. I need some time to think. If I were you, I'd look for a new job.
But as we see in the game, Otto eventually loses his grants and his funding, and he gets to the point where he's like, bro, fuck this shit. I'm tired of being nice. I'm talented. I need to get with somebody who's gonna pay me this money. And he gets with AIM, which if you're not familiar with the comics, AIM is like, I guess a good way to put it would be like an evil shield. They're a big government corporation that normally, you know, outfits and supplies, you know, different evil henchmen and different villains and everything like that. So we kind of see as the Sinister Six gets all their new outfits and new weapons and stuff like that, we learn that Otto was the one who created for them. As we come back as Peter throughout the campaign at different points of the story, we see Otto's lab change. We see him get the welder's outfit. You know, he says it's just to, you know, weld some new equipment, but we in turn know that that's the same outfit that he wears as Dr. Octopus. We see that arm that he initially started at the beginning of the game. It's normally like human-like and small. As it progresses, it gets more monstrous and more big and more weapon-like and becomes the Dr. Octopus arms that we know, but it's like, that's a good metaphor for that descent into darkness. And, you know, we see on Otto's wall, we see a picture of the Raft, which is like their big Supermax villain prison, and we see different points and everything like that, and Otto's just telling Peter, yeah, I'm just helping him shore up some security, it's nothing big. And he's actually, in turn, planning the breakout for the Sinister Six and everybody else. So he can set the distraction to set off the Devil's Breath. So Otto's been doing this the whole time. And then just seeing that dynamic between those two, Peter's still trying to save him, and then at the end, Otto tells Peter he knew he was Spider-Man this entire time.
Such a disappointment. Parker.
You knew?
I tried to warn you, Peter, but you didn't listen.
You knew?
I won't let you win. This means too much to me.
Not more than it means to me!
reveal and the shock in his face was just so well done, and you really felt that because Peter was rooting for this guy the whole time. Peter wanted to make him work. Peter wanted to save him any way he can, and just to find out that Otto, you know, not that he became evil, not that he led the Sinister Six, not that he's done all this stuff, not that he's released Devil's Breath. It's the fact that he knew he was Spider-Man and was still trying to take him out and didn't give a fuck about it. That's what hurt Peter. And when Otto's at the end saying, "Oh, you said you'll never leave me. Oh, you said you'll never leave me." Those are the arms. "You said you'll never leave me, Spider-Man." That's because Peter doesn't give a fuck anymore. He knows the guy that he's always loved and looked up to is gone. And at that point, he has to do what's best for him, and he has to do what's best for the city. And that's just such a great storyline in of itself. Those themes of mentorship and you know, playing the cards that, how you play the cards that were dealt to you. You know, it shows that, you know, Miles, Martin Lee, Peter, Otto, Norman, they've all lost something important to them, whether it be finances, you know, family, grants, opportunities. They've all lost something important to them. And the way that they've all reacted to that loss shows how they progress through the story and shows the path that they're on, whether it be good, whether it be bad. And that's just a great story and just a great thing that they really hold up throughout the story. Okay, but let's get to the good shit. We really want to talk about that fucking second. You know what? Let's not even get to the second one. Let's talk about the first end credit scene. As you know, it's kind of like the MCU. So after the credits, there are going to be 2 after credit scenes. The first one, it was a really good one. It was a nice little nod. We see Miles getting his powers, and this is going to be a different dynamic. It kind of goes back to that mentorship thing I was telling you about because. As we know in the books, you know, Miles came into a world where Peter Parker was no longer alive. You know, so he had to learn to be Spider-Man on the fly. He really had nobody to really lean on and really learn how to be Spider-Man from. You know, he had these ideals that, you know, he always thought Spider-Man exemplified, and you know, he had his inner moral structure and everything like that. But for him to actually learn from Peter now, you know, with his father passing away, you know, Miles really got a lot of mentorship from Peter, and now to see Peter going to be able to teach him how to use his powers, I think they're just setting up great for the sequel, whether it be, you know, dual play with Miles, whether it be eventually playing Miles as Spider-Man, whatever they do, I think they really set some nice stepping stones to that story. And I'm glad that they didn't really try to shoehorn it into the last third act, because the third act was fucking crazy already. Had a ton of boss fights, had a ton of stuff going on story-wise. So to let Mary Jane get in and get the spider, let Miles get bit, find his suit, learn how to use his powers, for Peter to train him and sign off on him to put him out in the field just so Miles could be part of the climax, it wouldn't have felt natural. It wouldn't have been paced right, and it would have just felt too shoehorned in. So I'm glad they kind of took their time and decided to follow it up in the you know, sequel. I doubt that they follow it up in the DLC. If they do, maybe something small, maybe some training, maybe learning how to get a suit possibly, but I don't think they're going to touch on it too much in the DLC. It's probably going to be something bigger for the sequel. And let's get to the second end credit sequence. That's the one I'm really excited about, and that's the fucking symbiote. Harry being Venom, potentially being Venom, is crazy, and that's going to add even a different dynamic to the typical Spider-Man versus Venom intimate type of adversarial relationship that they had before, you know, with Eddie knowing who he was and everything like that. But Harry, his best fucking friend, potentially being one of his biggest enemies, well, him and Norman. We see when we go into Norman's penthouse with Mary Jane, we see he has the prototype Goblin helmet on his desk. We see the prototype bombs in the back, so we know that they're setting it up for him to be Green Goblin. And just seeing how he got manhandled by Otto in the third act, and really not having any type of power. You know, Norman's normally typically used to being the alpha male, the top guy in the room. So for him to just get bitch slapped all over New York in the last third act, you know, he probably wasn't here for that. So he's going to get that Goblin suit together, and that same green liquid that Harry might be, that was sustained in, might be the same green liquid that eventually gives him the Green Goblin powers and the Green Goblin craziness. But like, back to Harry. So I was thinking that, you know, when he's laying in the vat, all that black stuff around him, I'm like, it kind of looks like the symbiote, but I don't know where they're going for. But there's no misconstruing it at the end when it reaches out for Norman, like, give me some money. You know, give me a wallet. You know, that's really Venom. And so just it's the potential storylines for that is just so crazy and so mind blowing. But this is actually not the first time that Harry's been Venom. This is actually inspired from the Ultimate Spider-Man line that we were talking about before. And it's funny because the name of the project is GR35, and in that same Ultimate Spider-Man line, in issue 35, that's when they actually introduced Venom and everything like that in the symbiote. And it kind of works the same way that they're potentially teasing now. They were trying to make a cure, Otto and Norman, I believe. They were trying to make a cure, just like what Devil's Breath ended up being, well, potentially being, end-all, be-all cure that could cure everything, AIDS, cancer, everything like that. But the byproduct ended up being the symbiote. So instead of the whole alien, you know, crash landing or going to another planet with a Beyonder and doing Secret Wars and everything like that, seems like they're going to go this route to introduce the symbiote, which is unique, and I'm not mad at it. It seems like it could maybe work, and after the way that they ended this game, I kind of have some faith in the storytelling. So let's see how it goes, but I think it's just going to be amazing setup for the sequel. All right, one other question that kind of got raised during the game is what team is trying to recruit Spider-Man? As we know, as we're doing the challenge missions for Taskmaster, he says the team recently paid him like 6 figures, like, bro, they hiring, first off. And secondly, do I gotta know how to do all that flipping shit? Because I mean, I could write, I could videotape Spider-Man, I could record that shit. All right, never mind. All right, fuck my resume video for whatever shady organization Taskmaster's working for. But let's break that down. Who is he working for? Somebody who's willing to pay him 6 figures, somebody who's looking to recruit Spider-Man, and somebody who's willing to work with Taskmaster. Typically in the books, you know, he's always been associated with AIM, the Thunderbolts, S.H.I.E.L.D., and those are 3 kind of shaky choices because the Thunderbolts, they're a team full of villains turned good, kind of like Suicide Squad, but they're not really good. Everybody knows Spider-Man's a hero. I mean, I know Jay Jonah has been saying for years, you know, oh, he's a menace, Spider-Man, get out of here, I'll vote for Trump. You know, he's a menace and everything like that. But the crazy thing is that, you know, he's been doing it 8 years. Everybody knows he's a good guy. So he just literally saved the city, so there's no way that he goes there. Thunderbolts or AIM. I don't see it. Now, S.H.I.E.L.D. is an interesting choice because they have worked with him before. And Spider-Man's worked with S.H.I.E.L.D. before, even as recently as one of his recent cartoons. But I just think that they would use like Nick Fury or somebody to come down or, you know, hit him up. Hey, bro, slide on my DMs, you know, something like. I just don't think they would pay 6 figures, number one, to use Taskmaster to reach out to him for a tryout for S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s got like, you know, random fat 300-pound guys, you know, looking like security guards working for him. So I'm sure they could let Spider-Man slide on through. Come on, bro, just sign the paperwork. Now, 2 teams that Spider-Man's typically been associated with are the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. The Avengers, we've already kind of had that name drop that they're on the West Coast. You know, even if it's, you know, like a little nod to the West Coast Avengers, I still think that they actually still have the core Avengers, obviously, because they have Avengers Tower in New York. So we know the Avengers are a thing. Now, we know Spider-Man's familiar with them. I just don't think they would use Taskmaster to reach out to him. Like I said, once again, you know, he's obviously has some relationship with Tony Stark. Tony Stark would reach out to him. As we see in the beginning, he has a little post-it note like, hey, call Tony back. So we know they have a relationship there. Also, Fantastic Four, the Fox Disney deal just went through. So, you know, we could potentially have the Future Foundation suit as a DLC coming up now, but as they were going through the development of the game, there was no clear signs that that deal was going to go through. So I doubt that they would, you know, kind of put in that Easter egg that, you know, the Fantastic Four and number one, working with Taskmaster are leaning out and, you know, really trying to recruit Spider-Man that way. So let's get to the DLC. What could the chapters be about? We know with the season pass, we're getting 3 chapters all coming out before the end of the year. The first one we know a little bit about. It's going to be Black Cat focused. It's called The Heist. Comes out in October. Then we have Turf Wars in November, and then we have Silver Lining in December. Let's talk about Black Cat first. The Heist. We do a couple of Black Cat missions throughout the game, and we know that she's, you know, she stole over like 50 million worth of crap just to distract Spider-Man, just to go get her shit. So to really go get her original suit and equipment, she must have been really pressed to get that stuff, and it must be her planning for something bigger. But what could it be? What could gameplay be like in her DLC? Also, are we going to get dual play with Black Cat? Are we going to get some Black Cat playable missions? You know, possibly. You know, they've already shown that they're willing to put us in other people's shoes, and to finally get put in another superpowered person's shoes would be actually pretty cool. You know, typically Black Cat is always kind of associated with trying to take down Kingpin in one way or another. With Kingpin being so built up for this story, you know, he's been Spider-Man's big bad for 8 years. You know, as we saw at the beginning of the story, that was his first time really taking him down and really being able to get him locked up. And then we know from the prequel novel that they released, you know, Kingpin was the main antagonist of that too. So why build up Kingpin so big in this universe and not use him? So I think this would be a great way for them to reintroduce him, because we know once we get Kingpin locked up, he doesn't really appear for the rest of the game. So this would be a great way to reintroduce him, bring in Kingpin, you and Black Cat trying to take him out. Or possibly Turf Wars could be a great way to bring him in. We don't know what Turf Wars is about, but you know, typically when you think Turf Wars, you think kind of, you know, gang warfare. You think controlling different areas of the city. You know, with Kingpin gone, you know, he really left the power vacuum at the top of the city for the villains. And you know, we saw Martin Lee kind of try to step in there, and Sinister Six trying to step in there. And Martin Lee with the Demons really took over a lot of the city. So could Turf War be about Kingpin coming back out of jail, finally getting released, and trying to find his way back into the underworld and take over his city again? Because we know Mr. Negative is locked up now. So who's the head of the Demons? Is it somebody else? Is a new head? Or is it a different type of gang coming in altogether? We don't know. Hell, Turf Wars could be fucking Spider-Man Splatoon, where you're shooting webbing all over, different color webbing. We don't know. We don't know what DLC they come with. I hope not. But let's hope that it's going to be something good. They said it's going to be new characters, new story arcs, new suits, and new missions for each chapter. So I'm hoping it's not just some BS money grabbing. But the way that, you know, they showed so much love to the story, I doubt it will be. And then let's get to the final one. It's going to be Silver Lining in December. So with the silver motif, it can only be a couple of people if that's the main clue that we're going off of. We know we were introduced to Silver Sable in the main story. You know, her and her group of mercenaries were kind of like the military police for the game. You know, her and the Wild Pack are known commodities in the Marvel Universe, so this could be a way to reintroduce her back and maybe delve a little deeper into her backstory. I don't know if I'm really pressed for that. I don't really care too much, but hey, who knows? It could be something interesting. It could be something good. Like I said, they already defied some of our expectations throughout the game. Anybody else that really has that silver kind of motif or silver name throughout the Marvel Universe, the main two that come to my mind are Silver Samurai, which would make no fucking sense. He's a Wolverine, you know, villain. Never really seen him associated with Spider-Man too much, and to see a DLC focused on him would be really weird. Or Silver Surfer, which is extremely dope, which it would be, but I doubt it would happen just because, like I said, the Fox Disney deal just went through, and as you know, Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer are part of that deal, and so they wouldn't even have had the rights to really put him in there. So I figured when they're doing their DLC roadmap and everything like that, I doubt they would potentially set up a big chapter of something that they couldn't maybe use. So I think all signs kind of point to Silver Sable, but we'll see. As you know, as the DLC chapters come out and more information on the game comes out, I'll be here to cover it. And I appreciate you guys staying with me all this time. And let me know what do you think about the game. Let me know what shoots you're using. Let me know what you thought about the story. Let me know what you think about the sequel. And let me know what else you're interested in seeing, or what else you're interested in talking about. I'm here to talk about movies, television, video games, anything like that. Like I said, my name's Craig. Feel free to follow me on social media, and we'll check you next time.